From the calculator to AI. Here's a question of technology. Technology at our fingertips makes life easy. But does it also make us more dependent on technology and therefore less capable in cases where we do not have access to that technology? That's the question that's important to answer. And that kind of takes me back to when I moved to the United States from India. So I moved when I was in my 8th grade. So I started 9th grade in the United States. And what I was very surprised by was that my classmates and we were allowed to use calculators. And not just regular calculators, scientific calculators were allowed where you could plug in simple equations, and then later on you got to graphing calculators that were allowed. And the funny thing was, calculators had been allowed in American public schools from an earlier period than I was used to in India. In India, when I was learning, when I was in the 8th grade and lesser, we were forbidden to use calculators. We had to use our minds. And so when I came to the US and I was in the classes, I had a leg up to begin with because I could get done small calculations in my head because that's what we had been taught and that's what we had practiced. And just by that one measure, I was able to understand what was happening in the class and was able to calculate faster than the most competitive people in my school. And it was a regular public school, but still I was pushed from regular algebra, to advanced placement geometry, or was it honors, geometry honors, in like 2 weeks because they figured out that I could do these calculations in my head and I had some sort of basic knowledge of numbers that would make it faster for me to calculate. Once it gets to a certain level of arithmetic and algebra and geometry and trig and pre-calculus and calculus, at some point you have to use calculators because it becomes incredibly complicated in your head, or at least when I was learning it. Now I've forgotten all of it completely. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that even now, I can do basic arithmetic calculations in my head faster than somebody who is used to a calculator. And that's about as basic as, that's also artificial intelligence in a way. Like you're plugging into something and it is giving you an answer that you cannot compute in the time it took for the calculator to compute that number for you. And that takes away from the individual the ability to do that simple arithmetic calculation, but it also hastens that person at that time because they have that technology, the calculator, available at that time. Now you put that and you superimpose that onto learning about computers, and where we have come in the last 25 years, it's been kind of dating myself, 30 years that technology has progressed from the calculator to big desktop computers with dial-up internet to laptops that are so thin that you would not be able to imagine in 1997, 98 having a computer that was this thin and this small around that got more done for you than that big hunk of desktop could. And therefore came with the initial word programs, there was the thing, spell check wasn't so much a thing, but then Word and Works, Microsoft brought in spell check, which has given us the ability to, write documents fast, even if we misspell something, and then it automatically spells it to what we want it to be spelled, the correct spelling. But here's the problem. What would you do if you didn't have the computer and had to write that? we wouldn't remember the spelling. And it's happened to me in a lot of cases where I've gone back to the computer to type some basic words that I should know the spelling of, but because I have habituated myself to the computer and to auto spelling, spell check, that has sort of diminished my capacity when I don't have access to the technology to be able to work as fast as I would with the technology. So it kind of makes me dependent on the technology. And if the technology, which is entirely electricity driven, goes away at some point, I am left with wrong spellings and miscalculations in my head. And so take that idea, take those ideas and superimpose that into the world we live in today. We live in the era that is post iPhone, broadband, ultra speed internet, going now to artificial intelligence where the computer and the computing software or whatever company, whatever website that you're using is not only going to write the paper for you, if you're writing a paper for school, write the paper for you, find the references, read the references and make sure that they are accurately all lined up and write you the paper without you having to do anything by just putting in some prompts. But that is causing children and young folks to not learn how to do research, not know how to write, not know spelling, not know basic grammar skills. And even if they are learning that in the schools, they are being undercut by AI if schools and if students are using AI to get to solutions like writing a paper or doing complicated mathematical calculations. They're doing it by not even knowing the process of how you got from the question to the answer. And that processing capability is critical for human beings to be able to employ critical thinking skills, to know how we get from one place to another, how we answer a simple question, and how we get from that question to the answer. And that processing is being taken away and digitized and made into AI, so you don't have to do the work while you have the technology available. But if you don't have the technology available, nor could you write the paper or do the calculation, nor would you know the spellings or the format or how grammar and sentence structure is formed. That will impede your oral skills when you're talking, when you're reading something, because it's not your words. It's not you constructing the story, so to speak. It is the computer doing it for you. And so I want everybody to be aware of this development in technology and to be aware of where we have come and how far we have come from, say, the abacus to the calculator to where we are now with AI technology, and take a step back and see the utility of doing a few calculations in your head on paper if you can't do it in your head, and then writing things, learning spellings. These are important skills that if you don't have electricity and technology will get you forward like it has human beings for hundreds and thousands of years, as opposed to shortcutting all of that and thereby not learning how to do it without the technology. Thank you so much for listening. With the help of technology, I'm able to say all of this to you, ask you to like, share, and subscribe. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate how available knowledge and access to the global platform has become because of technology. But we must never take for granted that it is making us dependent on technology, and we need to be somewhat independent of technology helping us in every walk of life, because there may be a time, there's a non-zero possibility that we may not have technology available to us at a time when we must really need it. So, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.